All right, other news now. NBA legend Charles Barkley is speaking out in the wake of violent protests in Ferguson. He created headlines when he told a radio show last week that the rioters, quote, aren't real black people. Those are scumbags. Last night, he discussed what he called a false narrative about police targeting minorities.
Anybody who walks out peacefully, who protests peacefully, that's what this country was built on. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But to be burning people's property, burning police cars, looting people's stores, that's 100% ridiculous. The notion that white cops are out there just killing black people, that's ridiculous. It's just flat out ridiculous. And I challenge any black person to try to make that point. This notion that cops are actually awesome. You know, they're the only thing in the ghetto from between this place being the Wild Wild West. So this notion that cops are out there just killing black men, it's ridiculous. And I hate that narrative coming out of this entire situation.
You know, it's interesting. We were talking earlier, Dorian, about Chris Rock speaking out. You know, you have certain people who are professionals. Whenever something bad goes wrong, you see them out there. I think it really is incumbent on a lot of different black leaders in entertainment, in politics, to step forward and, you know, have a debate.
Yes, but the social scientist in me says we need to have this debate, but let's look at the data, the numbers, the facts.
Right.
So while Charles Barkley might not like the narrative, if you just look at the stop and frisk numbers in this city alone, they tell a very different. Frankly, I've been stopped and frisked 3 times in this city wearing this suit.
Right.
More respectable looking than you, Joe.
Oh my God! Well, yeah.
You should be stopped in those pants.
You know what?
Hold on, this is really important.
Let's stay to the data. Let's stay to the data.
But let's stay to what Charles
facts.
Barkley's talking about. There are a lot of black Americans, and I've talked to quite a few of my friends, deeply offended by the looters, deeply offended that there's a suggestion that has any place in this Ferguson story and that it's a justification. Charles Barkley's right. The people looting these stores, destroying property, they're scumbags. They're scumbags if they're white, they're scumbags if they're black, they're scumbags if they're Hispanic. Also cops. Is it good or is it bad for people to be going out there suggesting that cops are just white cops are going around black neighborhoods looking for a black guy to get shot?
Let me respond to that, because I think there's an element of truth in what he's saying. I personally have been stopped and frisked in this city. They were all cops of color. So I think this is actually, it's about race, but it's about something else as well. It's about policing in this country. We need to have a debate about policing, broadly speaking. Right. And as taxpayers, as citizens, what is the proper relationship?
I hate to get deep in the weeds, but why do you think it was the cops of color stopped and frisked you and perhaps didn't Joe?
So you're saying it's more of a policing issue?
No,
I think it's race and policing, because they also profiled me. Just because you're black doesn't mean you don't profile other black people. Just because you're Latino doesn't mean you don't profile. So I think it's about race. It was about my skin color. And
okay, but isn't that fascinating? You're talking about data too. Let's have a real conversation on race, though.
Yes.
If you're a black cop and you see me walking down the street, and you see an 18-year-old black guy walking down the street in the South Bronx, and you're told to stop and frisk, and your job is to stop crime.
in that neighborhood to buy drugs.
Whatever.
You know? So here's the deal.
But let me respond.
I want you to answer the question based on data that cops build their policing models around.
Based on the data, there's neighborhood, there's place, and then there's profiling and the rest of the city. So when I get stopped at the Rockefeller Center subway stop, that's not the Bronx.
That's not the question I'm asking you, though. Because I'm asking you in the South Bronx. Because we're talking about Ferguson here. We're not talking about the best part of St. Louis or downtown St. Louis. So if you're in Ferguson, and a lot of people don't realize it's a crime-ridden neighborhood where this happened, who are you looking at? And again, I don't want to get distracted. I want to stick to data. You know, because Mike Bloomberg said something in the New Yorker, I think, or New York Magazine that offended a lot of people. And he said, look at the hard numbers. And these are the two areas where we have an overwhelming majority of crime in New York City. And these are the people demographically based on data that are most likely to commit violent crimes. And that's where we focus our policing on.
And there's a flaw in that.
Exactly.
Statement.
What is the flaw?
Because if the stop and frisk were only located in the South Bronx or in those neighborhoods, I would believe that. But they're not.
Okay, you keep talking about stop and frisk. I'm talking about policing in general.
Oh.
If you're talking about policing,
we
they
can go
should
to
both be
policing.
stopped and frisked, and it should not be based on the data. It should be based on moving our society forward and treating whites and black equally.
A cop is not out on the street going, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to move our society forward. No, a cop.
Actually,
A cop on the street, Mika, has one job, and the job is to protect the people in that neighborhood.
And
it is not to make a statement that makes primetime people on MSNBC feel better about America.
I'm not
it is
worried
about
about them.
protecting black people in the neighborhood, Hispanics in the neighborhood, white people in the neighborhood. A cop on the street does not sit back, and they cannot sit up in their tower and be philosopher kings. They're trying to stop the next crime. They're trying to stop the next rape. They're trying to stop the next robbery. And this conversation started being talked about data. Let's have a real conversation.
Don't you
and stop suggesting that white cops want to shake down black guys because they're black. A lot of it is based on data. If you're talking about data on why are they policing, let's have a real conversation about race. Let's have a real conversation about policing. But if you're talking about data, that's what cops will tell you. We're just looking at data. This has nothing to do with black or white. If white guys were responsible for 98% of the crime in this neighborhood or 47% of the crime in the neighborhood, we would adjust our policing based on those models.
But
I'll
you're
shut up now
convicting
and I'll let everybody else talk. Let's have a real conversation about race and policing. Go.
I wish that police departments would adjust their policing based on the data. And actually, that is one of the problems that we should be talking about in this discussion.
How are they not?
Is that most police departments don't even report data to the National FBI Crime Statistics Database. We don't even
hate
know.
to ask you.
We don't even know how many.
Is it not the case that the overwhelming amount? It was Michael Bloomberg wrong when he said, based on all the data, the majority of crimes are committed by young black males ages, I don't know what he said, 18 to 27 in two neighborhoods in, he said the South Bronx and a part of Brooklyn. Like, is that not the case?
In terms of high crime neighborhoods in the city, yes. But that doesn't
I'm just talking about crime in general, Dorian. Quit changing the subject.
I just said high crime.
You said
places.
high crime. Just crime in general in New York.
Yes, Joe.
Okay.
I'm talking about crime. But when you focus on two neighborhoods but have a citywide policy of policing, that is not about those neighborhoods.
You're going back to stop and frisk now. I'm talking about Ferguson and high crime neighborhoods. And the logic of it's kind of like, why do TSA officers feel like they have to frisk 8-year-old or 9-year-old kids? It's stupid, right? So they're looking at who is most likely. There should be looking at who's most likely to take down a plane.
I'll give you an example from New York City zone data. The use of marijuana among white teens and black teens is roughly equal.
Right.
But the arrest rates for marijuana possession or usage are disproportionately black and Latino teens.
And
so that's crime.
I talk about
crime,
that on this show.
But there's something going on.
Right.
And let's talk about that. What's going on?
Listen.
The crime rate of that crime is the same.
I know, Dorian. I talk about that on this show all the time, and I talk about how so I don't want anybody to misunderstand me. Apparently everybody is. I'm just saying, though, as we try to vilify cops in this country, as we have over the past week, I'm not talking about you, but as protesters go out and people suggest that white cops just want to shoot black young youth in the back, it's important to look at what is driving. And you brought up, black police officers, Hispanic police officers, when they're out, they're not talking about moving society forward. Their job is to keep neighborhoods safe.
Well, but they're leaders in the community, and the only point I was making is if you focus only on the data and you don't treat people equally in the
Right.
community,
Right.
you're fomenting anger. And if your job is to protect the community, you cannot be a part of the problem.
You have to have community policing. At the same time, you have limited resources. And so if a cop, if there are only
You can
enough
frisk the white guy, too.
Okay, listen, can I just say, Mika, I don't want cops to go up and stop and frisk you. It's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. And I don't really give a damn if that makes somebody on TV feel better that they're stopping and frisking you. I want cops to keep blacks and Hispanics and whites in high crime neighborhoods safe. I don't care how that makes you feel in your liberal household in Westchester County. I want black families and Hispanic families and white families in the South Bronx, in parts of Brooklyn, and in Ferguson. I want them safe. I don't want their houses burned to the ground. I don't want their businesses burned to the ground. And I frankly don't give a damn whether you feel good about how they do it or not. I want these people safe in their homes. I want grandmothers safe in their homes. I want children safe as they're walking to school. And you know what? Just the bloggers can write what the bloggers want to write about. We have limited resources. Cops have limited resources. They have a hell of a tough job. Sometimes they screw up. But how people feel about it doesn't matter unless it's people in that
Joe,
community.
most black people would agree with you on that
Exactly.
point. Everybody wants public safety. Everybody wants to feel safe in their community. There's no disagreement about that. The question is, we have different ways of getting there, and there is something terribly wrong with the way we're doing it now, and we're not having a conversation about that, about policing as a broad category, and about, I mean,
What's the best thing? Name. What's the first thing you would do to fix what you see as the policing problem?
So I actually think if we were paying attention to the policy, the president actually announced several things on Monday: data collection efforts, training methods, cameras on cop. There's like 5 different things that policy people and police departments are actually talking about doing and experimenting with and testing out that is beyond this
Why aren't there cameras on
hysterical.
cops? Why aren't there cameras? We talk about it all the time here.
Conversation.
Why aren't there cameras on every cop?
They're about to be in New York City.
It's going to be
That would be
a big change.
great, Willie. That would be a great change.
It would be. At the core of the problem in Ferguson and in so many neighborhoods is this us versus them mentality, the police versus the people in the community. If we fix that, we make a lot of progress. How do you do that, though? That seems like a generational problem. That's not going to happen tomorrow or
Not
next week.
necessarily. I mean, I think we have several examples. After the LA uprisings in 91, 92, there were reforms in that police department. We can evaluate what worked, what didn't work. We actually know something about what worked in that situation. There are other experiments with community policing around other cities in the country. We know we have these experiments. We know what works and what doesn't work. But we have to first acknowledge that what's happening now is a problem, and people's anger on all sides is based on real different experiences. And it's not like everyone has the answer, but we actually do have
So,
some
by the way,
policy
I just want to say this at the end of this segment, because I'm sure a lot of people are freaking out because they really are just stupid and don't really understand. We're trying to have a real conversation about race.
This is it.
I will tell you that, and that's why I
think
went
it's
there
been
on a lot of
great.
this stuff. Gene Robinson and I agree on probably 95, 96, 97% of these issues that we've been talking about over the past month. You and I would guess, probably agree on 95, 96, 97% of the issues. But people have to have a real conversation about race, and they're afraid to. And as long as people run to their corner and aren't afraid to go out there and take chances, then we don't move the ball forward.
No, and you're, I think, brave to sort of try and
I'm not
bring.
brave. I get paid
Well,
a lot
no,
of money to do
I think if you look on
the
Twitter,
people are, I don't care
I would be.
about
I think
Twitter.
it's brave.
You know what I
But-
care about? I care about this country
I know.
moving forward on racial issues. Race issues. I am a son of the South. I saw a lot of things that I didn't like seeing growing up. We've made a lot of progress, but this is kind of like the final frontier. And we are not going to solve these race issues without having some uncomfortable conversations instead of these pat
Exactly,
conversations.
like what
Police are
Charles
bad,
Barkley
or da, da, da.
said. I mean, that was I'm talking about just being brave enough to go against the sort of echo chamber, the sort of tide of
Well, I got to tell
liberal
you who's
think on
brave.
this.
Like Farrell
But-
came out and had some tough things to say. You had Chris Rock.
Yeah.
You know, has come out and said it. You've had NFL players that have come out and talked about this. You know, people that are actually, their livelihood is based on you know, entertaining and everything. That's kind of courageous, and that's what we need to see, I think, more of.
All right, we'll be right back.
Morning, thank you so much.
Much more Morning
appreciate it.
Joe.